Well, thank you. That's a very lively way to get this morning moving. I was looking at those 92 years. You know, I've been coming to these things for 92 years. Not quite. In fact, the first one, I shouldn't tell you this, but just to give you a little of the flavor, I'm very hesitant to make commitments. Some people know that. I didn't propose to my wife for 15 years, so I'm very hesitant. Anyway, I was invited to the host breakfast to come to this thing. I didn't know what the hell the host breakfast was. It sounded a little too formal, so I didn't give them an answer. So they invited Gerald Ford. But then Squeaky Fromme took a shot at him. So, that was the 1975, where most of you people were in high school. Not all, but many. Anyway, I think these are very impressive gatherings, and listening to all these issues, the regulations, the taxes and all that, I have to say I'm probably guilty for half of it. A governor gets 1,000 to 1,200 bills every year. So I've been here almost 15 years. That's probably 15,000 laws that call it 10,000. Each law spawns a few regulations, so yeah. My hands are all over this thing. But, not to say there aren't a lot of issues, but California is stronger and vibrant than ever before. That's true. We got issues, but we got dynamism too. Since the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, California has created 2.3 million jobs. And when I say California, I don't mean people in government, although government definitely contributes through schools, through intelligent laws. But yes, small business, big business, creative people, investors, banks, farmers, scientists, exporters. It's an incredible, diverse array of people. And yes, it's creating jobs almost like no other state, like very few places in the whole world. In fact, California, just to be specific, in the last 12 months, grew 40% faster than the nation. And in fact, according to Bloomberg News, California is the reason why alone the United States of America has significant economic growth among developed countries. You compare U.S. to Europe, we're growing in America because of California. That's a hard statistic to believe, but I didn't say it. Bloomberg said it. All right, we had a $27 billion deficit when I came in here. It's gone. We have built up almost a $7 billion rainy day fund. And we had something Oshai called the wall of debt. It was $34 billion. It's now down to $3 billion. We've reduced it 90%. So that's a lot. $27 billion deficit, $7 billion rainy day fund, and we got rid of $30 billion of a wall of debt. That's a lot of money. So don't call that expenditures. That's called saving. That's called putting money back in the bank. And we've also committed to, over 10 years, $52 billion to fix our roads and support local transportation. And the Chamber of Commerce was behind that and instrumental in getting that vote. Now, I know a lot of people don't like gas taxes. I don't even like gas taxes myself. When I was governor the first time, the Republicans wanted to increase 1982 gas taxes by 5 cents. They said no. And then we negotiated. I said, okay, we'll raise it 2 cents. Well, that was a little short-sighted. George Mason came along and increased it 9 cents. And Ronald Reagan himself said, pay as you go. So we have three choices. Let the roads deteriorate, like letting your roof deteriorate and ruining the carpet and the furniture in your house, or fix it. And if you fix it, you can go to the bank and borrow money. That's called bonds. In fact, the last governor borrowed $40 billion. We've spent it all, but we have to pay for it for the next 30 years. Or you can pay as you go, which is what California did up until just a decade ago. So Whether you like it or not, you got to fix the roof, you got to fix the roads. You either pay as you go or have your kids and grandkids pay. I prefer to get it done on a regular basis, and that's what the Chamber preferred, and that's what we're doing. So thank you. All right. But we have some long-term liabilities. So we're dynamic, we're driving the whole American economy, but we have challenges. There's 25,000 bridges in California. Those things have to be fixed or torn down, repaired. We have 1,500 dams. We have long-term retiree health liabilities. For the state alone, it's $60 billion. We still have pension responsibilities. We've reformed the pensions. It'll take place, but it only applies to new hires, so it'll be another 20 years before it really kicks in, and the population is aging. Well, even more significant is the buildup of heat-trapping gases in California and throughout the world. Now, California is only 1% of the carbon pollution, but the world is shifting with over 7 billion people and 1 billion automobiles and coal and oil and gas and all these other things that we're doing. It is creating a change in the fundamental chemistry of life itself, of our atmosphere. The sea level is rising. Very responsible predictions say that we're going to see a 6-foot rise, a chance of that. We don't know for certain. It's certainly going up a couple of feet, could go 6, some people say as high as 8. That happens to the Bay Area, to San Diego, to Eureka, to the coast of California. That is human tragedy, and it's tens of billions of dollars. And that's not the end of it. Our fire season used to be a few months. Now it's almost a whole year. We have 100 million dead trees because of the drought. I'm not saying the drought is caused absolutely by climate change, but it's an example of what happens as the global temperature inexorably rises. We'll have more droughts, more floods, more disruptive climate events, more diseases, more bugs and other kind of microbes coming up from hotter climates. So it's serious stuff. And, you know, California's doing something about it. We've responded. It didn't start with me. It started with, actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger made the first big move. And California has a very substantive and serious climate action plan. We are committed to 50% electricity from renewable energy by 2030. By the way, it's good to recall that just a few years ago, the utilities, the electric companies, said California couldn't make 20% renewable electricity by 2020. Well, already, PG&E, Sempra, and Southern California Edison, they're around 27%, some are even higher. So technology is moving far more than I could have ever imagined just a few years ago. So we're going to have 50% renewable electricity. We're going to have 1.5 million zero-emission cars. In fact, we're going to need more than that. We have the most efficient buildings that are now being built, so we're increasing the building efficiency and the appliance efficiency standards. And our goal is to reduce the heat-trapping gases 40% below 1990. And this is what all the scientific academies say. I know the president calls it a hoax. I know the majority in Congress don't believe it or say they don't, but the rest of the world does. China just made an agreement with the European Union that they're forming a partnership together to double down on climate action. And by the way, this is not something that doesn't relate to jobs. California is a leader in clean tech investments. 2/3 of the clean tech investments in the United States are made right here in California. 100 patents a day of all kinds are granted in this state. There are 331,000 jobs directly attributed to clean tech. 40% of the electric cars sold in America are sold right here. And this year, we're seeing a very significant increase in their purchase. There's more clean tech venture capital in California. Now hear this. There's more clean tech venture capital in our state than in all of China and Europe combined. I mean, this place is a powerhouse. And it's a powerhouse because of people like you and entrepreneurs everywhere. But we have a program that is very important. It's called Cap and Trade. The legislature has already enacted the cap, and that is a limit on emissions from factories and all sources of emission. There has to be a reduction, and every year it's going to be lower. Now, they've done that part, but there's another piece called the trade, cap and trade. Cap and trade is a market mechanism invented, I think, by some Republicans. They forget about that now, but it's a market base. So that if one company finds that reducing pollution is not as efficient as another company can, then the first company can pay the second. And it's called cap and trade. So you buy allowances, and therefore the most efficient producer creates the investment in the technology to get the reduction done. It is something that spurs investment, it spurs competition, and I'll tell you, it's something more important, that if you have just command and control, just the cap with no buying or selling or trading of allowances, the cost is tens of billions of dollars higher. So when I say we need the cap and trade program, I'm talking about jobs, I'm talking about saving your businesses millions and millions of dollars. It's a critical vote, and over the next several weeks, we're going to do everything we can to make sure we introduce a market mechanism in this very important program to clean up the environment of California. And it's going to take some Republicans here. The Democrats can't do this alone. So, Chamber, you got your work cut out for you. But you did it on the water bond, you did it on the rainy day fund, you did it on the gas tax. So here's one more item that is good. All right, we are not stopping here. I'm going to China tomorrow. We're having a meeting of our 175 partners. And those partners include states and provinces and countries all over the world. And this group is completely committed to meeting the Paris Agreement. We are committed and even going further. And this group includes Canada, Mexico, California, Washington, Oregon, New York, Massachusetts, countries in Germany. Actually, it's almost 30% of the world's gross economic product, about 1 billion people. And that's an organization that has started in the last couple of years. We'll be meeting in Beijing, and we are committed. So Washington may, go south. I don't know what President Trump's going to do today. He's been tweeting about it all morning, so it must be important. But we have a program, and China's not stopping. China's going to have 11 million electric vehicles by 2030. And if you look at what happened in the photovoltaic and the wind energy, China completely went from nowhere to dominating both of those. Now, who's going to make the batteries? Who's going to make the electric cars? Is that California and America going to be significant, or are we going to give that to China again? So a rule, we can call it a law or regulation, if it's intelligent and sets a target, it will stimulate investment. It'll stimulate creativity and change and adaptation. And that's what California is all about. So whatever happens there in Washington, California will continue leading, and not by itself. We are not alone. We are joined with almost the entire world in a specific under 2 coalition, as we call it, keeping the climate from growing more than 2 degrees centigrade. We are joined by 175 people. So let me end with, again, which I've said before, but I think it sums up the spirit in which I think we have to move. And this is the immortal words of Woody Guthrie. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. And here's the key part. Nobody living can ever stop me. As I go walking that freedom highway, nobody living can ever make me turn back. This land was made for you and me. And California is not turning back. We're moving ahead. We're moving ahead together, and it's going to be better and brighter for years to come. Thank you very much.